like to thank all those who sent in questions for me to answer on such short notice. I did get a few questions, and I'm going to answer them over the course of my July trip here, and then compile them all together into one video. So anyway, and of course, as I said, if you didn't get a chance to get your questions in before I came on this trip, go ahead and ask them anyway, and I can ask them, or I can answer them on a future trip, or maybe when I'm paddling out at Quarry at Chester Woods, or something like that. So all is not lost. Like I said, I did get a few questions. I'm going to answer the easy ones first, and then eventually I'll get to the more difficult ones. So, first question I'm going to answer is from Dale Braun, whose name I butchered so badly when I announced the winners of the contest. Again, Dale, I'm so sorry. I should have known how to pronounce it somehow or another. I had an old-timers moment there where it just wouldn't come out right. But Dale Braun, and he asked, do any of your family members enjoy your outdoor adventures with you? Short answer is no. Longer answer is my wife used to join me on like state park camping trips, national forest, things like that, many years ago. But she's had a bunch of health issues, not least of which is she had to have a knee replaced and a hip replaced. So her mobility is not what it used to be. Well, mine isn't, but hers is even degraded more than what mine has. And so just getting down, she insists on having a tent that she can stand up in if she's going to be camping. She needs a cot or something. She can't sleep on the ground, can't get up off the ground basically. But was never ever interested in this kind of a trip anyway, a Boundary Waters type of trip. It was always, like I said, state forest campgrounds, national or state park campgrounds, national forest campgrounds, those type of things that she would do, but she doesn't do those anymore either. Her idea right now is that we're going to save up enough money to get a camping trailer, or a RV, a small one. So we'll see how that goes. My daughter actually used to come on some of my adventures with me. In fact, actually it was because of her that I got into the Boundary Waters for the first time, because the church youth group that she belonged to was coming up on a trip. I think it was like a 4 or 5 day trip, something like that, and I was invited along as a chaperone. So my first trip in here was as a youth group chaperone. And she actually went on 2 other trips with me. There was one other, it was basically an adults only trip from our church, but she had done such a good job and impressed so many people on the trip before that they allowed her to come along on this adults only trip with us. So so my first 2 trips, was that my first 2? Yeah, my first 2 trips she was along on. Quite a few years later, she came back and did another trip with me at her request. She lives out in West Virginia now, so it's tough for her to get here, and you know, has low paying jobs and that, so she just can't afford to come. She can't afford the time off, and so she doesn't come out anymore. And then my son never did, I never could get him hooked on camping for some reason. great kid in a lot of respects. I really, I call him a kid. He's an adult now, but I'm really proud of him for what he's done with his life and what he's doing. But I just never could get him interested in camping at all, let alone something like this. I mean, he just can't see the pleasure in carrying your world around on your back, getting from A to B, and just to have to back up and go on to C again. So just could never ever get him interested in this. So no, none of my family members currently enjoy my outdoor adventures with me, although my daughter used to. One more question I'm going to answer right now, and the others are going to have to wait a little while. James Neal asks, he says, not really a question as much as a follow-up. Your spot failed on you on one trip. If there was a resolution reported, I missed it. Did it work after it dried out, or did you have to replace it? And if the latter, did spot give you any consideration? Just a little background on this. Actually, my son bought me a spot that I took along for the first time on my trip last August, my 2-week solo. That was supposed to be a 14-day trip, 2 weeks, 14-day trip. On the 9th day, and I really wanted a spot so that I could keep my wife informed of what was happening. So there's, a 1-week trip, it's one thing. A 2-week trip, if something happens early in the trip and they don't, the first time they know that something's happened is, after 14 days I haven't come out on schedule. Don't really have a lot of, they don't know where to look, etc., etc. So I really wanted it for the longer trips like that. And so I had set it up so it was sending messages to my wife every evening. And I actually had tracking mode on, so I had some friends that were tracking me too. So anyway, on the 9th day, at the end of a portage, the thing died on me. I thought it was a battery issue, so I didn't think much about it. I took it on to my campsite that night, opened it up to put the batteries in, and the battery compartment was all full of water. Tried to dry it out, see if it would work after it dried out. It didn't. But I think, in retrospect, I think the water was a separate issue. I think the water got in there after whatever else happened, because the last time that it sent a tracking message was when I was on dry land at the end of a portage, and all of a sudden it just quit. And it didn't go in the water. I don't know, even after the fact, I'm not sure how it got the water in there, because I never submerged it or anything, so exactly how that happened, I don't know. But like I said, I think the water issue was kind of a side issue, that it died for some other reason. When I got home, it was kind of interesting. After I got home, I had an email waiting for me from the spot company asking me what I thought of my spot. So you can imagine what my answer to that was. So I got a response to that, but the response I got was far less than satisfactory. Basically, they wanted me to pay more money to get a service plan, a repair service plan, not a service plan. It gets kind of confusing. Too many things called a service plan. But anyway, they wanted me to get a new, they wanted me to pay them like 15 or 16, or I don't know, it might have been even $20 to get a service plan. So then they would replace my spot for me if I had this maintenance service plan. So you can imagine my response to that. Well, in the meantime, when my son bought the spot for me, he had gotten a maintenance plan from Gander Mountain where he had purchased it. So after I sent off my second nasty gram to Spot, I went down to my local Gander Mountain. They not only replaced it, they extended the maintenance service plan on it for free, and well, they replaced it, and all I ended up paying was the sales tax on the extended maintenance plan that they did for me. When I got home from that, I had another email from Spot, from a different person in Spot, very apologetic about the previous answer I got. Actually, it was a phone call. It wasn't even an email this time. It was a phone call. But the guy, he left a message, and I called him back. He was very, very apologetic about the other answer I got, about the fact that the thing failed in the first place. You know, the thing's supposed to be waterproof down to like a meter or something like that, and it hadn't gotten anywhere close to you know, getting to that depth. Like I said, I'd never even put it in the water. So anyway, he offered then to replace the spot for me, and I said, well, I've already had it replaced through Gander Mountain. So then he said that he would extend my service plan, you know, what you have to pay to actually use the thing for the satellite service. He would extend that by a month, or what, because I just purchased it just before I went on the trip. So he said he would extend, he would give me basically a free month's worth of, I felt it should have been better, but at that point in time it was like, it's done, I've got a new one. I've got an extended maintenance plan on it through Gander Mountain. I've got a, you know, I've got a month, I basically got a free month now of being able to use the thing. So I have used it on a few trips since then. I think I even used it on my winter trip. I wanted to see how it would work in the cold. It worked just fine. I've got it along on this trip. It's working just fine. I had it along on my June trip. I think I had it along on my September and October trips last year. Not that they were very extensive, not that I used it. I didn't use the tracking option on any of those trips. I just turned it on in the evening to send the I'm okay message. This is the first trip I think that I'm actually using the tracking on it since I got it replaced. I don't think I put the tracking on when I was at the on my winter trip. So anyway, like I said, I got it mostly for the long trips though, because the short trips, unless something really, really bad happens to me. Well, first of all, I can't go as far on a short trip, on a week-long trip, as I can on a 2-week trip. And so, and then too, people are going to find out a lot earlier, a lot sooner that I'm in trouble than like if I'm on a 2-week trip. And like I said, I get something happens to me the first couple of days. It's a long time before anybody even knows to come looking for me. So anyway, those are the 2 questions I'm going to answer right now, and I'm going to tack a couple more on later on. So thank you Dale, thank you Neil, James. Oh boy, here I go with names again. Thank you James, and good questions. Like I said, easier to answer than some of the other ones I've got here. The other ones are good. It's just that they're going to take a little bit more. So, we'll talk to you later. So Rich P says, I would like to know about your canoe, the brand, the material, the length, and the weight. Okay. Good time to talk about it since we're in it. It's a wood strip canoe. basically a home built, although I didn't build it. I bought it from a friend, but it's not a particular brand. It's a home built. It's made out of cedar strips. Well, the hull itself is made from cedar strips, which are then once the cedar strips are in place, then fiberglass is spread over it for protection. So it's cedar strip and fiberglass. The other things, the gunnels, the deck plates, forts, and everything else are made of other types of wood. I can't remember exactly what. I think there's some walnut in there. Definitely, since Jim replaced the gunnels, there's some ash in there, and yeah, stuff like that. So it's all wood, and with the gunnels and the other trimmings, if you want to call it that, they are oiled. They're not fiberglassed. And actually, with the hull itself, over the fiberglass, at least on the outside of the hull, I put varnish. Every 2 or 3 years I sand down the varnish, or sand it down and revarnish it, I should say, which helps to get rid of some of the surface scratches and that type of thing, and makes it look nice again. Helps protect everything else. The length at the waterline, it's 16 feet 3 inches. It weighs about 40 pounds. It's based on the Canoe design. There's various different spellings of Canoe. It's based on the Canoe design. Now, the Canoe is a band of, or a tribe of Indians in the northwest part of America, of the States, as I recall, who traditionally made canoes that had what are called recurved bows, the ones that come back to you, like this canoe has. So when they designed this canoe, they called it Canoe. I can't remember offhand who it was that designed it. It's a fairly well-known canoe maker or canoe builder. He also did the Merlin and the Merlin 2. You're gonna have to look it up at home, and I'll put something on there. You know, I'll put it on there who it is right now. It's based on that design, but that design is only about a 15-foot boat. So the person, my friend who made this one, his name is David Morlock, and he lives in Cambridge, Minnesota. What he did was the design called for the stations to be placed 12 inches apart, and he stretched that out to be 13 inches apart, which made a longer boat. Now, in theory, a longer boat, everything else being equal, a longer boat is going to it's going to have better speed, it's going to glide better, it's going to be more efficient than a shorter hull. So because of that, I actually call this a Canoe myself, and because it does move nicely across the water. It's very good tracking boat, so it works very well on lake water. Definitely does not work so well on rivers because it has no rocker. The bow and the stem were lifted a little bit to give it a little bit more maneuverability, but it's definitely a lake canoe, and like I said, it tracks very well. Most of the time I paddle on one side, and I don't have to do a lot of correction to keep going. So, and I think I mentioned it weighs about 40 pounds. Originally it was about 38, but various repairs along the way added some weight to it, so it's It's maybe a little bit over 40 pounds now, but still not too bad. Huh. We have an eagle being mauled by a, I don't know, by a small bird. One small bird by itself. So that's what that chattering was about. I hope you could hear it on the camera. So anyway, that's my canoe in a nutshell. Hope that answers your question, Rich P. Thank you for asking. So from Lost on Land again, Lola, who has her own channel, by the way. I'll link her in the description below. She does a lot of traveling by van to a lot of neat places, so you might want to check her out. But she asks, how do you not get lost on the boundary waters with no landmarks? How do you find the portage spots or legal camping spots? Well, first of all, there's lots of landmarks out here. Islands, bays, points, and even the campsites themselves are all good landmarks that I use to find my way. Now, I was going to do a thing on navigation on this trip anyway, because of what a friend ran into on his trip back in May. He was navigating in Lake One, which is a tough lake to navigate anyway, because there's lots and lots and lots of islands, and can get pretty confusing. But he was using his compass, and he got lost. He got turned around. He wasn't sure where he was. He found another canoeist out there and paddled up to him to try to get unlost. And the other canoeist, who was also lost, and they were both looking at their compasses, and their compasses were pointing in different directions. So he eventually found his way to where he wanted to be. So he wasn't really lost at all. I'll a little bit more on that in a minute. He was just confused. But after he got out of the boundary waters, he talked to his outfitter about the experience, and the outfitter says, yeah, with all the iron ore up in the boundary waters, compasses can get pretty confused, so you can't always rely on them. Now when I'm navigating up here, I seldom use a compass. I have one with me. I consult once in a while, but most of the time I basically keep from getting lost by making sure that I'm always found. In other words, I follow along on the map as much as I can, and I watch for the bays and the islands and the campsites to help me stay unlost, help me know where I am at all times, or most of the time. Now, there have been occasions when I have gotten confused. I've videotaped a few of those. The maps can be kind of confusing at times too, because they're not all that accurate. But most of the time, like I said, I just follow along on the map. So if I look at the map here, this is going to be tough to do. I'm starting out at this red dot here. And by the way, this is a map made by Fisher specifically for the boundary waters. Mackenzie also has a series of maps, and there's other companies too. So anyway, my campsite is here. Now there's an island just off to the southwest of my campsite. If I can turn my canoe, well, what I'll do. Okay, this is the campsite I'm leaving, right there. There's the island. It's just to the southwest. So I know from my map that to go where I want to go. Try to get Sam's in the way too, it shouldn't help. So where am I? I'm up here. So I know I gotta go kind of south of that island to get into this narrows here. After I get around that island, then I can start looking for that point. That point there. And I know once I get around that point, I gotta head northwards around this point and then west again. And I've got campsites, I've got a campsite on the end of this island that I can look for to check to make sure that was the right island. I can look for this campsite over here as I go around. And as I get close to the portage, I will see this campsite and that campsite. So that's what I do to stay found, is I follow the landmarks. Follow the land. So now I'll head towards that island. Let me zoom back out here. I'll head towards that island and to the south of it. I could, since it's an island, I could go to the north of it too. I'm going to go to the south of it. Campsites are usually pretty well exposed, pretty easy to see. There are exceptions, but they're usually open areas like that. But I'll show you a few more examples too. And you can usually see the fire grate from the water too. Not always, but sometimes. See, but you kind of look for those exposed rock areas. Now, not all of them are campsites, of course. But if it correlates to the dot on the map, it's a pretty good chance that it's a campsite. I heard the story a couple of times. I don't know how true it is. Back when Daniel Boone was in Congress, one of his fellow congressmen asked him one time, "Did you ever get lost?" And he thought about it for a minute, and he says, I never got lost, but there were a couple of occasions that I was mighty confused for 3 or 4 days. And kind of the point is, there's a difference between getting confused and getting lost. If you find yourself, if you manage to get yourself out of the situation, you're never really lost. You're just confused. It's only when you need help from other people that you're lost. And one thing to pay attention to up here is when you start getting confused, stop and gather your thoughts. Don't just keep pushing on, because then you'll get lost. Earlier on this spring, about the time I was in on my June trip, there was a couple that were up here. They were supposedly experienced canoeists, experienced in the boundary waters. They ended up getting lost. And their story was that they were looking for a portage along a river, and they couldn't find it. And they just kept pushing on, thinking the portage was going to be up around the next corner, the next bend. And they just kept going and going. And finally they got so far they couldn't go any further. The river petered out. They couldn't turn around. And that's what they say. And they were stuck. Didn't know where they were. So they ended up bivouacking for, 2 or 3 days. And finally somebody noticed that they were overdue on getting out, and they started a search. And it took about 2 or 3 days for people to find them. So their biggest mistake was once they realized they didn't know where they were when things weren't looking right, they kept pushing on thinking they were going to find something. And they never did. So when things start looking wrong, just stop. That's when I get the compass out. Make sure I am going, I do know what direction things are. And you figure things out. Or try backtracking until you see something that's familiar on the map. Okay, I've gone past that island campsite now. Couldn't film it because there was somebody there. But now I'm looking for that point. And that point's going to be up here somewhere. So this is looking like a point pretty much right in front of the canoe here. Right up in there where that rock face is. Checking the map, I do see that there's likely a rock face the other side of the point. There's also a big bay to the left of us. Here I am coming up to the point. Now I could tell by the topo lines on the map that they're packed kind of tight together, that the other side of this narrows had a hill and a little bit of rock face going on. Leafage, as hiking with Sean would say. Some minor bluffage. So I used that to verify that this was the point. It's kind of hard to, from across the water, it's kind of hard to make out where the points are because they blend in the channel on the other side. So you look for other things like that to just to verify that you're where you are, where you think you are. So, past the point now, and we know from the map that we have to make a right turn and head north for a little ways. And then we look for another channel opening up to the left, eventually up here. The map shows a couple of bays off to the left, a small one and then a big one, before it comes out to the point. So just off to the left here, just beyond there, would be the big bay. That says that the point I'm looking for is up pretty much straight ahead here. And across from the channel that I'm looking for, actually before the channel I'm looking for, there's another channel off to the right. So that would be up in there. So that's another check. So all kinds of landmarks out here, Lola. Landmarks everywhere. Big thing is to make sure that things keep looking right on the map. So there's the channel going off to the right that we don't want to take. And here's the channel going off to the left that we do want to take. So you pay attention not just to where you want to go, but where you don't want to go too. Just as a double check, triple check. Get your bearings. Now of course right here is somewhat easy navigating because we're on a river, but it does have all these side channels and everything, so it could get tricky. A lake with a lot of islands, a lot of points. It's a little bit trickier, but it's the same type of concept. Look at your map, look at where you think you are, make sure everything around you matches what you think, matches where you think you are. So now we're going through the narrows at the end of that point. Sorry about the camera fogging up. Not much I can do about it. It's just the weather conditions. Hopefully it'll clear up pretty soon and not get worse. Okay, and the map says we need to go around to the left at this point. Avoid the big bay to the right. And once I'm past this point here, this peninsula, then I'm going to head over to the north shore of the river, because in the map it looks like it's a pretty straight shot following the north shore all the way to the portage. No major bays or anything to get turned around in. Plus the campsites are along the north shore too, so I can show you what campsites look like from the water. As long as they're not occupied. Okay, if you see that rock face straight ahead, off to the right part of that rock face, that's the campsite up there. There are people up there, so that verifies that it's a campsite, but I was pretty sure it was anyway, because it's the right place according to the map. So most campsites are like that. They're pretty easy to spot from quite a distance away. Like I said, I use them as landmarks, as well as the bays and the points and all that kind of stuff. I also check on those campsites. Okay, portages are not quite as easy to find as campsites, but most of them aren't too difficult, as long as your camera lens isn't fogged up. Hopefully you can see this. Again, I knew the general location from watching where I was on the map. I did go past that campsite that's right near the portage, so that was a good landmark. I didn't bother filming that because of the lens problem. But anyway, yeah, you look for a landing like this, and you can see the trail going off into the woods, and you know that you're at a portage landing. The last question comes from Riellobrand. By the way, Riellobrand has, I think I'm pronouncing that sort of okay, Riellobrand. He has his own channel. I'll try to remember to put a link to it in the description. Very nice. He lives in Cornwall, and so he does a lot of hiking and a lot of hiking around and some canoeing too, around the Cornwall area. He does some of his hiking in Dartmoor, places like that. So, very nice videos, and really shows off his native land. So if you check him out, does very good job filming, and always includes his kettle for his tea. Anyway, his question is a long one. You could be sitting at home in your rocker with the little dog, smoking your pipe. You don't smoke a pipe. And shouting at the political events like most men of your age. Instead, you are as fit as a butcher's dog and out doing things guys 10 years younger would give up on. What motivates you? Well, I don't know about the fit as a butcher's dog, unless butcher's dogs are fat from eating all the scraps. So first of all, the motivation is that I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to be one of those guys that's sitting at home in his rocker, smoking his pipe, shouting at the political events, and basically just lounging around. Although I do my fair share of that. I have longevity in my genes. My dad is 97 years old, 97 years young, still living on his own. Most of his siblings are still living. The only one that we lost, my Uncle Walter, died of diabetes when he was in his 90s. And Dad attributes his death to the fact that he and his wife worked in they owned and operated a donut shop. And so my dad always says that Uncle Walter just ate too many donuts, and that's what gave him the diabetes. But still, the diabetes didn't kill him until till he was in his 90s. All of Dad's other siblings are still alive, in their upper 80s, 90s, whatever. And so the point of this is, barring any accidents or strange illnesses, I have a pretty good chance, or chances are pretty good that I'm going to be on this earth for another 30 years or so. That's a damn long time to be sitting in a chair, smoking a pipe, and shouting at the political events. That's a damn boring 30 years. What really motivates me, especially coming out to the Boundary Waters, is just the beauty out here. Yeah, there's a lot of hardship involved with it, and the hardship gets harder every year. But there's hardship. There's, torrential downpours, wind, bugs, all kinds of stuff like that. But there's also just incredible beauty out here, especially in the mornings and in the evenings. It's funny, I never grew up near a boreal forest, but to me, the boreal forest is the most beautiful kind of forest in the world. It seems like home to me. Having this mixture of conifers and your hardwoods, well, deciduous trees like your birches and your aspens, it's just got a beauty of its own. Where I live in Rochester, to the southeast of us, we have forests. They're all mostly hardwood forest, beautiful oaks, beautiful maples, even in some places some hickories and other gorgeous trees like that. But they're not as beautiful as this incredible land up here. And even, then you add in the rocks, the ruggedness of the rocks and all the rest of it. And so just being able to get out here, enjoy the beauty without a lot of man-made noise. Yeah, thank you, jet airplane, for flying overhead. Without any motors, without any loudness. I'm an introvert. I need to be away from people. And boy, up here, yeah, you come across people every once in a while. They're all friendly. I don't mind talking to them. It's, small groups, not big, huge crowds. But mostly it's just me and Sam. And my nature, I just need that. I need to get away from the city. I need to get away from the noise and the confusion. And so the motivation for coming here, at least, is getting away from all that. Getting away from the political events as well. Yeah, and the other thing, as I talked about in my introduction, in this year's introduction video, part of why I do the canoeing and the hiking and the camping is that I get into places where there's not a lot of other people that have been there. Yes, there's, 1 million visitors or something like that to the Boundary Waters on an annual basis. But it's insignificant compared to, like, the visitors that Yellowstone gets, or Yosemite, or any of those places. When I take a picture here, there might be a handful of other photographers that have taken a similar picture. It's not like going to Half Dome in Yosemite and 1 million people a year take pictures of those things. It's a handful of people that come out here and I'm talking about serious photographers now. I mean, yeah, you get the people that take their snaps, their family pictures. That's fine. I'm not I'm not dissing them at all. But actual, real photographers that take their time, any given location I go to, you know, there's very, very few that have actually taken those pictures. So that's part of what motivates me to come out here and keep doing this instead of sitting at home. I mean, even though I'm an introvert and everything, I do like sharing my photos. I like it when I get good feedback on my photos on Facebook. Now I've got the videos that I'm doing, providing even more motivation for me to come out here. Because when I sit at home, you know, I'll watch somebody else's video, not necessarily at the Boundary Waters or somewhere else, and I think, you know, I could do a sequence kind of like that up in the Boundary Waters. That would be so cool. And all of a sudden I'm planning my next trip around the videos that I can take and the pictures I can take. And it's so, I don't know, I'm probably getting a little bit off base here, but it's all motivation for me to come when I'm sitting at home. And, you know, sometimes those videos are what motivates me to come out here too. Seeing other people's videos. Not just looking at how I could do, you know, how I could shoot something, but just watching there gives me the urge to get back out and try to be out here. It's getting tougher all the time. Yesterday was a hard day, and it shouldn't have been, because it wasn't, you know, compared to even what I was doing 3 years ago, doing one 240 rod and one 160 rod portage and a couple of other, you know, that would have been nothing. But it's getting harder. It's getting harder to get that motivation. I guess the biggest thing is I'm still getting the motivation. It's just that I don't have the physical capabilities to necessarily act on that motivation. And there are times when I'm out here, more so now than ever before, there are the times that I'm wondering why I'm still doing this. Why? I ask myself, where do I get my motivation? Because sometimes I don't feel very motivated. But going to keep doing this as long as I can. I think, well, the trips are going to have to get shorter and shorter and easier. But I'm going to keep doing them as long as I can. Now, on the other hand, there's going to be some people that watch this video and say, he's a youngster, because there are people in their 70s that come out and do Boundary Waters trips and do them a lot better than I do. But as you said, you know, most people my age don't do this anymore. I think I told the story before. The first trip that I was taking a video on, back when I went out of Baker Lake, ran across a young guy to me, on a portage trail, and he said to me, you know, just how old are you, if you don't mind me asking? And I told him how old I was. Again, this was like 3 years ago. And he says, you know, I'm going to tell my dad about you, because he's 10 years younger than you are, and he says he can't do this kind of thing anymore. So, like I said, I would just get bored sitting at home, sitting in my rocker, watching the politics, smoking a pipe if I had one. Boy, I'd have problems with my wife if I did that. Anyway, because I want to be out. Motivates me to do as many trips as I do in a year is that I know the time is coming when I won't have the physical capability anymore. So I'm trying to pack it all in before that happens, before that day comes. That's why I did this trip here, because it was looking like I was only going to get 2 trips this year. And there's still so much I want to see and do. I said, well, I don't really like going in July, but I know September and October are going to be out this year, so better pack in the trips when I can. So, like I said, that's my motivation for doing so many trips, is knowing that there's not that many years left when I'm going to be able to do them. But that's life. Makes me sad, but I'm not going to get down about it. I mean, none of us live forever. None of us keep doing any particular thing forever. I've gone through all kinds of cycles in the past of things that I've been interested in doing, and then gotten to the point where I couldn't do them anymore. And so, do what you can while you can, and live your life to the fullest, because it's not a I didn't mean for this question and answer session to end on such a downer note. But once again, I do thank everybody who sent in their questions, very good ones. And again, if you missed my cutoff when I was able to write down the questions before I came on the trip, I'll try to answer them on a future trip, or I'll answer them like when I go paddling at Chester Woods, or something like that. But please feel free to ask the questions, and whether they're factual type of things or more philosophical, like this one was. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. So, thanks for watching, as always. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And I love getting comments, feedback, and hope to see you on trail. Gibby Mox out.